Well, folks, thanks for joining in again today, joining the growing number of people who are turning into the day-to-day news here, getting insights behind the headlines that maybe you're not going to get other places, and broadcasting from West Palm Beach today, going to be at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow for a day of meetings. Hopefully, President Trump has indicated he's going to be there, so we should have some interesting reports for you after those meetings. Thanks for tuning in right now. And continuing to grip headlines and really around the world is the situation in Minneapolis and Minnesota, and regarding the ICE agent who shot and killed the woman driving the SUV, Renee Good. And it's very interesting. What I'd like us to just reflect on for a second here. There's two spectrums of opinion. One is that this woman was actually was going to possibly kill the ICE agent, and the other that she was trying to get away. Now, the amazing thing is it's completely polarized, but everybody has seen the same videos, the exact same videos. So one person one group who will be watching it says, oh yeah, she definitely would have killed that ICE agency if he hadn't shot her. The other side said, looking at the exact same videos, no, she was turning away. There was no way that's going to happen. It just really indicates, folks, how we are moving more and more increasingly, and I've been saying this for a few years, to issues based on our feelings and not based on our facts. Two sides, both of those sides cannot be right on this issue. And then even in terms of how people are reporting about the woman who was shot, if people are saying, trying to not put her in too glowing a light, they'll talk about the fact that she's known to be a trainer of activists, and also that she herself has a wife, and that her wife is also involved in training activists. So people who are saying that she really, caused or was a cause of this infraction, they'll lean to that kind of information. And then people on the other side will just say, well, she was a mom, she has 3 kids, and she really wasn't trying to do anything. They won't point out the fact that she was stalking where the agents were going to be. So this is the concern, that in our society, we're increasingly polarized and finding it very difficult to operate from the point of view of facts. Look at the situation yesterday as Luigi Mangione came to court. If you remember Mangione, he's the guy who assassinated, shot at point blank range, shot in the back of the head, the CEO of a major health insurance company on New York City. And he was in court yesterday with his lawyers. And first thing the lawyers are trying to do, they're trying to get the death penalty removed from the case. And they're making a case that to do that, the main evidence, of course, well, there's lots of evidence, but the fact that when he was arrested, he had a knapsack, and when they looked in the knapsack, there was the gun. It was the actual gun that he did the shooting with. And there were the mask, the silencer was in there, and the notes that he wrote after he shot and killed him. Couldn't be a cleaner cut case. But they're saying, his defense is saying, you know what? The police officers didn't have the proper warrant to search that knapsack on when they grabbed him at the restaurant that day. So a lot of wild things coming at it. If the judge does not remove the death penalty, then it's going to take longer for this case to come to trial. If they take it away, the death penalty, and just go with life imprisonment, then it'll come to case sooner. But here's the concern: the huge amount of fan support that Luigi Mangione has for assassinating someone in cold blood, shooting them in the back of the head on a city street. And not just the support because people are crazy enough to say, well, the guy he shot was head of a health insurance company, so he probably deserved to die. Absolutely lunatic reasoning. But Mangione quickly raised $1.5 million on crowdfunding. So he's got $1.5 million in his account already. And the number of women, and even going on some of the major talk shows, who are deliriously in love with this guy. They say, oh my goodness, look at his beautiful eyebrows. I wouldn't touch anything in his hair, and he's so gorgeous, and I want to marry him. Folks, this is frightening. And any woman out there, or people who think, well, this is kind of cool, that the women kind of like him, remember, anytime there's a mass murderer, serial killer, you may or may not know this, but they always get huge attention, attraction from women who are so unbalanced that they want to pour out love on the guy. The same happened, by the way, just in case Mangione thinks he's in some kind of special company of people here and deserving of this. It's also groups of deranged women who wanted to get together with and even marry Ted Bundy, who was a mass slaughterer and torturer of children. So some really concerning things. But in the polls itself, the amount of people, high percentages of people who say that they support Mangione, and not because they're saying that he was not guilty, but they are saying he was guilty, and they're cheering the fact that he murdered this guy in cold blood, shooting him in the back of the head. Folks, we've got problems in our society for sure. Again, we look at the fact that mainstream media in the United States, Canada, around the world, really not giving tons of attention to what's going on in Iran. There's a possibility that the Ayatollah could be finally overthrown, and it's mainly young people on the streets. Disturbing reports that they're being shot by the hundreds, if not the thousands. And one thing that they're calling out for, that they're asking, they're saying if international media would get behind their cause to throw out the extremist, radical Islamist Ayatollahs, that it would really help. But if you look at what mainstream media is doing, for instance, today on the Canadian news networks, the main one, the state-funded, culturally Marxist CBC, there were 3 stories on top of the news. You Google and you look at their top stories, and the stories they were putting ahead of what's happening in Iran were 2 of those 3 stories were about customers complaining about fees being charged by airlines. Folks, we're losing it somehow. Our mainstream media, if you are following culturally Marxist media, you are getting a distorted view of the universe. It will affect your intellect. You have to look broader than just mainstream media. And people, leaders, dictators from around the world are continuing to react about President Maduro being indicted by, really, the indictment started, as you recall, it was President Biden who put out an indictment on him, put out a bounty on him. And now that he's been arrested, he's going to be tried. We see other dictators from around the world shrieking at Trump. They're putting up videos, the president of Colombia basically saying, come and get me. You know what? Don't ask twice for Delta Force and President Trump to come and get you. It may just materialize. But there's even been a suggestion that Marco Rubio might be a good candidate if Cuba got toppled, if the government there got toppled, the communists, that Marco Rubio might be a great candidate for president. That may be. I've been to Cuba, not as a tourist, been there on an agriculture mission with a group of people who are showing folks in Cuba in the rural areas how to grow crops, how to raise chickens, even how to raise pigs. And the people that I went there with, we bring in cash and enable people out in the rural areas to actually learn to fend for themselves, because, again, famously, mainstream media refuses to report what a devastating horror story Cuba is. Yes, people get to see Havana and they get to go to some of the all-inclusive sites, but when you get out into the smaller areas, the grocery shelves are bare. People are standing, I saw it with my own eyes, people are standing in lineups for things like bread. And I asked them about their healthcare system, which is supposed to be like Canada's and so wonderful. And they say, no, people have to pay. The doctors are so underpaid and starving that even in their so-called socialized free healthcare, you have to come up with the cash to see a doctor. It's about time that somebody, people are helping Cuba. Cuba could have been helped a long time ago if there had been some honesty from mainstream media reporting about the hellhole that the communists have created in Cuba. It would be great to see that begin to change. On the health front, the vaccination issue continues to loom large around the world. And what's happened, people have said, has the Trump administration, the Make America Healthy Again, has that taken away all the vaccinations? No, it's reduced the list of vaccinations that are being pushed for children from 17 vaccinations to 11. And they're also saying that really the Hep B vax, probably you might be able to make a case that for kids who are growing up or surrounded in intravenous and users and other high-risk communities might be a case to be made, because there is a risk to be taken for those who take at infancy, especially the Hep B vaccination. But doctors increasingly are saying for healthy kids, the risk may not be worth it. As usual, consult with your doctor, and remember, down through history, it's always been said, get a second opinion. So let's see where that particular thing goes. Well, Bob Weir, the co-founder of the Grateful Dead, like he said in his song Truckin', one day he'd be cashing in his chips, and you know what? He has, as you know. So interesting to see all of the Grateful Dead fans, the Deadheaders, are mourning today, and pretty remarkable career, pretty significant area of cultural activity there as people mourn the founder of the Grateful Dead. You know, on the faith and culture front, interesting thing coming up tonight, if you're watching on your televisions, if you're football fans, the Houston Texans, they started the season, they lost their first 3 games, they were 0-3 into the season, then they turned it around and finished up 12-5, an amazing season finish, qualified them for the NFL playoffs. And their quarterback, C.J. Stroud, when he was doing the interview after the most recent game, and he's known to be an outspoken person for his faith, throughout the whole interview, apparently it was frustrating some of the interviewers and some of the media, because he continued to go back and talk about his faith. But what he talked about, because sometimes when people in sports, the athletes talk about their faith, then some of the critics kind of roll their eyes and saying, oh, you're hoping that God's going to, give you the victory now. And Stroud, the quarterback, was very clear. He said there's no way they're thinking God is going to pick a side and who's going to win the game, which is going to be tonight, actually, against the Steelers. He made broad comments about how he came to faith, and the fact that all of the players on the team who are people of faith, those who are, they just thank God for his goodness. They thank God that they've got jobs in the NFL, and they thank God for strength and health. And we're going to see what happens as they continue to show gratitude, because, as you know, they're facing Aaron Rodgers tonight in the Steelers. Let's see what happens. That game is on at 8 p.m. Eastern. You want to tune into that. I don't know if you saw the Golden Globes last night. I did watch some of it, kind of fun and interesting to see what the local self-glorifying stars are doing. Nikki Glaser was the stand-up comic, really the host of the Globes. And I got to say, she was pretty funny on most of her stuff. And in fairness, she took some pretty good shots at quite a number of the celebrities sometimes who think that they are pretty well the best thing walking on earth. And she was successful in bringing a number of them down to earth. But one other thing that she did that was interesting, which you never see either at an Academy Awards or the Golden Globes or any big Hollywood event, you never see the stars taking shots at their own beloved media. The culturally leftist mainstream media always supports Hollywood, and there's sometimes strange ventures into all kinds of different eras. But this time she took some shots at CBS, and people were saying, well, isn't that good? Hollywood finally isn't afraid to, take a shot or two at the media. Well, you have to keep something in mind. As you know, CBS, and somewhat recently, David Ellison from Paramount taking over that particular news entity. And he has brought back Barry Weiss, who Barry was, as you know, from her past experience. She was a sort of a mainstream media star for quite a number of years. And then when she began to be less woke and more center of the road, or even leaning to the right, she got punted out of mainstream media. Everybody thought that would be the end of her. She started a little organization called the Free Press, which grew gigantically, as you know. And then David Ellison now inviting her back, and she's, as you know, back at CBS as editor-in-chief and quite a remarkable turnaround. So she is not as supportive of a lot of the weird things that come out of Hollywood. And CBS is taking a more balanced view these days, not just lurching to the cultural leftist Marxist position like CNN and other networks. That's why Hollywood is taking a shot at some of the media, the ones that don't lean in their direction. Hope you enjoyed that show. Hope you enjoyed this one. Look forward. I'll be giving you a report tomorrow from Mar-a-Lago. Hope President Trump is there. I'll let you know. Thanks. Bye for now.